push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Monday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. Yours truly, DJ Yoakley, alongside, well, let's give you the ball. Richie Giuliano. See, that was kind of cool because it went from one to the other.
I like that.
Nobody even knew it. A great weekend. Great weekend of sports on the network. Great weekend. Hope everybody had a great weekend personally as well. A lot to talk about on the show today. The power rankings come out, Rich, and ooh la la. There is some shakeup. It's almost like, I try to explain, it's like a snow globe.
Oh, yeah.
And we just shook it up, and now we got some new teams in there, both for volleyball and for football. We're going to focus mostly on football today. We'll focus on volleyball tomorrow. But we're going to talk about the teams that maybe didn't make the cut and maybe why we think they didn't, or maybe they should have. Talk about some teams outside looking in. Coaches of the week. There's some big wins around the Valley. Certainly want to talk about that and a lot more. But first, as we do each and every day on the Ysn Power Hour, it is time to go back in history on this day in sports history on Ysn. All right, so I got to get it open. All right, this is one we talked about. It is slim pickings today, brother. But we found one. We had to go all the way back to September 12th, 1914. Over 100 years. Tells you how bad September is sometimes. Yankee shortstop Roger Peckinpah becomes the youngest manager in history at 23 years old of the Yankees, I believe, right? It doesn't really indicate it.
Yep.
All right. So if you can coach any team right now, right this second, who would it be? Any sport, any level, who would it be and why? Can't do any of the Cleveland teams, and I can't do any Pittsburgh teams.
Okay. Ohio State football.
Ooh.
Ohio State football.
Could you do a better job than Ryan Day?
No.
It's a trap.
No, I think that'd be an unbelievable experience.
What would you change?
I don't know if there's much to change. I just think it'd be, awesome on a daily basis to go in and have that job and make millions of dollars while doing it. I think everybody in the state of Ohio wants to be the Ohio State football coach. Like,
it's true.
When Ryan Day's done, which will be a long ways away, but when he's done, there will be probably over 10,000 applicants for that job.
Will you just throw your name in the hat to be part of it?
No. I mean,
but it's like references.
I have zero qualifications.
You've called football.
Yeah. I'd have to call Jim Tressel, be like, hey, I'm going to need a recommendation for this.
I'll give you a recommendation. Can you imagine my recommendation?
Oh, God.
It would be phenomenal.
Yeah, but I think Ohio State football is like everybody's dream to coach. I think that'd be awesome, being able to coach at one of the most prestigious college football programs in the country. And you have a chance to win the national championship every single year.
Well, like from a standpoint of I already asked you what you would change. What would you keep the same?
Probably all the traditions
that
they have at Ohio State. I mean, you can't change tradition, right? But one thing I think I would change when it comes to like a game day perspective, I would not allow my players to walk through wherever a tailgate is occurring. Like, how they walk through tailgates before games? They would not be allowed to wear earphones.
You'd have to interact with the
You have to
people.
interact with the fan. I just find it a little bit like disrespectful. Like you're showing up and the fans are showing up to support you, and if you have your earphones in it just seems like they don't care that you're there.
It's like a look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody wants that look with the blazer and the khakis.
Yeah,
or
I don't
the
care
suit.
about that. Like,
but they want the headphones on too.
Yeah.
And to me, that just kind of, you're right. It kind of soils the whole idea of looking presentable.
Like if you get off the bus and you're going straight to the locker room, headphones fine. But if we're walking through a tailgate or we're going somewhere, special, maybe a restaurant with a couple guys, and no, I don't want any earphones in. I want us to look tidy, right?
Phones down.
Yep. Phones down, polo on, nice khakis, whatever, look respectable.
Because you got to look like you're all business.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't show up to a job interview with headphones.
No, I hope not.
Well, yeah, maybe you would, but I wouldn't. It's one of those things like you learn early on. Yeah. And the phone thing, like you've got so much time before the game, so much time after the game to be focused in on your phone, who's tweeting what and all that stuff. If you want to go TikToking,
like Saturdays, no phone policy.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you're suited up.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do it before you guys leave the dorms that's fine. But as soon as you're walking with your teammates, phones go away, headphones go away. You're focused on those people that are spending good money and an experience. Because some of those kids may only have that one time in their life.
Oh, yeah. I've had that one time in my life, and that's probably all I'll ever get.
Yeah. And it makes you want to go back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the fish hook that just kind of reels you in. Man, this was tough for me. I would think I would want to be the manager of the New York Yankees.
A lot of pressure.
As there is with Ohio State.
Yeah, there's pressure with that.
But I feel like it's not that Aaron Boone's doing a bad job or there's anybody that's doing a bad job. I just think that'd be great to be etched in that echelon of history and say, you wore the pinstripes.
Yeah.
You managed for you go down Joe Torre, Yogi Berra, all the people that I admire from that standpoint, Babe Ruth, and you were a part of that, even if it's a small part of it. And to be able to take the field at Yankee Stadium, whether it's the new one or the old one, obviously, doesn't matter. It's just the ghosts.
And you know what else is nice about being the manager for that team is you're getting treated first class, man. I mean, you're staying in suites and hotel rooms. You're flying, private everywhere. You're getting fed the best food.
When the Yankees come to town, it's a different animal.
Yeah,
it's a different animal. They bring a crowd with them. So, yeah, I think I would go Yankees. I would love to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, I could not do a better job than Mike Tomlin.
I can't believe they won yesterday, to be honest with you.
Sometimes you're lucky and sometimes you're good. You tell me which one they were yesterday. A little bit of both,
A little bit of both, yeah.
But, we're waiting on, and we're going to keep an eye on Twitter, waiting on the diagnosis of TJ Watt, because that could spoil the entire year for the Steelers. Browns also a winner yesterday. Rich, I know you were excited about that.
Sweat that one out.
You draft a kicker, and he comes through
I
clutch.
know. 4th round draft pick is worth it right now, huh? Everybody was kind of talking about that pick and how you never draft a kicker in the top 5 rounds because we haven't seen it in the last 5 years. And, this is a kid in York who he gave up his senior year at LSU to come kick in the NFL. And I think we all know why now. He kicked a 58-yarder to win it.
Captain Clutch. I picked the Browns to lose by 10. I'm eating my hat on that one. I picked the Steelers to win by 3.
There you go.
I got that
right
one.
On the money.
How you like that one, Vegas?
I cannot believe that they missed that field goal.
Which
in
one?
Overtime.
Which one?
Not
Did you
the
see
Steelers,
the one?
The Bengals.
Well, the Bengals had one to put an extra point to put it away.
Yeah, and they missed that.
It got blocked.
Yeah.
And then they missed a field goal. And then
I
the
can't
Steelers
believe
missed a
that.
field goal. And then it was insane. We couldn't watch it, right? So
Oh, really?
we couldn't watch the regular part of the game because we had the Browns game.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's how I was able to watch it because I went from Browns. I stayed on the same channel.
And it just clicked on.
And it clicked right
because it's
on.
regional coverage.
Yeah.
It won't happen again. I will tell you that right now. Channel 28-1. It ain't going to happen again. I covered all the odds for the rest of the year. I am covered. I have the package that gets me to every Steeler game. I'm ready to go.
Really?
And I got approved by my wife, the CEO, or the CFO, rather, of the the Yoakley organization. She goes, listen, I don't want to hear you whine like you did yesterday.
It does suck, though, because there's times where the Steelers will get that coverage if it's a good game and
Sure.
the Browns are playing somebody bad. And you're just like, Really? Like, why can't we have both games on? And there's other games across the NFL you want to watch too that you can't watch because they're not on the main channels like Fox and CBS.
Drives me bananas.
Yeah,
like next year is going to be so much better because it sounds like the NFL is putting together like a streaming option that you can go like, like I don't want to watch anybody else's games. I'm sorry.
Like,
or if I do, I'll pay the $300, but I'm not getting DirecTV to do that.
No. And my thing is this is why I think college football does such a nice job, because even if Fox comes in for big noon kickoff or ESPN wants to take that game, every other game is on ESPN Plus.
Yep.
Or the Big 12 network, which is tied into ESPN Plus, the SEC network, whatever. You could buy all those packages, the Big 10 network. Like those packages you could buy online and you could have every single game for what, $10, $12 a month? Like it's actually worth it. Like you could get every game that you want. So I like how college football does it and college athletics in general. And, that goes for everything. If you wanted to watch Texas versus Baylor volleyball tonight at 7:00,
it's there.
You could buy that package
for
1 month and you're on.
I don't understand. Like I do, because everybody wants, we wanted a la carte. We didn't want to buy, cut the cord, do all that stuff. And now we do. And now there's 8 billion streaming things. And it's hard to keep them straight. But that's why there's places like, I don't know, YSN, where now we're scrolling. This is all Richie Giuliano right here. Look at the bottom. We are giving you all the games that are happening tonight on the network at the bottom of your screen, scrolling. We will make it better. This was a last-ditch effort. Like
250, type it in.
So these are the games that are on tonight, the volleyball games. It has the time, and if it doesn't have the time, it falls forward to the previous time. So there you see 7 p.m. And all of that. So we're going to be trying to take advantage of that, as well as on the audible call, we're going to try to make this a thing where people are updating the scores throughout, and you have it scroll right through. So fingers crossed. I know we do a lot of promising, and sometimes it doesn't materialize, as we'll tell you in a minute why the primetime didn't materialize as we go over some of the games that happened this weekend. But this is something that I thought would be cool and people would appreciate, and certainly I think it's going to be a little easier as you tune it in. It'll give you something else to look at as well. Richie, let's catch up on comments. It looks like Amos saying TJ Watt's going to be out or get a second or third opinion. He may not need surgery, so 6 to 8 weeks, see what happens. He also says, I hope he isn't out the whole season. He loves watching TJ, may have a future Steelers fan here. Oh, boy. Amos looking to flip.
Yeah.
A little bear roll right into the Pittsburgh. I like it. All right, so the first thing we got to talk about. Here we go. Power rankings. We got to talk about power rankings.
Big time.
Do we have the picture? Did Anthony pull it up? I don't know if he has the actual overcast, and I apologize for this. Yes, there we are. There she is. There's your power rankings. Austintown Fitch at the top of the polls, 4-0. Last week they were number 2. Canfield flips with Fitch at 4-0. It's going to be an interesting topic we're going to talk about here in just a minute. South Range still at 3, even though they survived the scare against the Struthers Wildcats. They're 4-0. Cheney moves up the ranks to number 4. JFK to number 5. Girard up to number 6 from number 8 last week. Lowville moves up from number 9 to number 7. West Branch is on at 8 at 3-1. They're up from number 10. Valley Christian makes their debut at number 9, and Ursuline slips down the polls from number 4 to number 10 off that tough loss to Austintown Fitch. Richie, when you're looking at this, what's the first thing that jumps out to you?
Well, I think obviously Fitch jumping Canfield is the first thing that jumps out to me, although I think Fitch might deserve it after beating Ursuline. The way they did, they were up big. They were up 35 at one point in that ball game, and things kind of slipped away in that second half. But that's what happens when you face a good Ursuline offense. I still think that was going to be a good game regardless. And Canfield, I think, has something to say about that. They shut out a team 42-0 that came from Canada and that won 3 out of their last 5 state championships. Although I think that team is a little bit rusty seeing them in person. Because of the pandemic up there in Canada, it's a lot worse.
Was that their first week?
This is their first week of the season. Yeah. First week of the season, first time playing in a couple of years because of what COVID's done up there in Canada.
That's incredible.
So, they looked a little shaky, but Canfield still took care of them with a goose egg on the scoreboard defensively, and the Cards scored in every single offensive possession. but one, and that was at the end of the game because the clock ran out. So, Canfield offensively has something to say about that, but they're going to be able to battle against the number 4 team in Cheney this week. So, I mean, that'll be a staple win for the Cardinals if they're able to come out and beat Cheney on the road. So I guess that's the one thing that sticks out to me first and foremost is that, Fitch, after a couple of weeks of argument, whether they should jump Canfield or not, they finally do it here as we enter week 5.
I know I talked to Ackelson and my vote was Canfield on top. It's hard to not. I mean, if you're the number 1 seed, it's hard to knock you off, especially what was it, 35-0, 42 nothing. So you look at that. Do I think Fitch should jump him? I mean, maybe eventually, but this is the week I think coming up that the opportunity's there.
No, it is. I mean, if Canfield is able to beat Cheney, I mean, I think the Cardinals then have a bigger argument because it's like, all right, we're beating everybody respectively, and if we beat Cheney, they're a top 4 team right now, and they're undefeated at 4-0.
Amo with a great question. What would be a better win, Ursuline or Cheney?
That's tough.
Got to be Cheney.
I mean, right now it's Cheney because they're 4-0, but
not only that, but they're same division. You're looking at Canfield. If Canfield beats Cheney, how do they not jump over Fitch?
Yeah, well, Fitch. The problem with Fitch is they're playing a team from Buffalo that has been historically really good. So now you can't. Now that Fitch has overcome Canfield and has taken that number 1 seed, I don't think there's any way that the Cardinals can now jump Austintown unless Fitch will lose at some point.
How is that fair, though? And that's why I'm not trying to manipulate this. Everybody has their own votes, and we tallied them up the right way. And Fitch,
they had the majority vote in the
clear.
1 column. Yeah,
it was crystal clear and at the number 1 spot. So let's say that Fitch wins by 35 points against this Buffalo team this week, and Canfield beats Cheney. Or, if that's the case, how does Canfield not get the absolute I mean, that's the same. It's the same situation.
It's the same situation, yes. Especially because Cheney's 4-0 now, and they're the number 4 seed, and Ursuline is down to 10. But at the same point, like we said, it's hard to flip Canfield back to 1 now because Fitch, they're going to have the majority vote the rest of the way now.
I agree with that.
I think it's going to be very difficult for Canfield to get back to 1 unless Fitch will lose.
I think the toughest thing here is Cheney needs to come out with, their hair on fire. Because if Cheney does not win, we saw what happened to Ursuline. If Cheney does not win this game, it's very easy to fall out of favor with these voters, especially with some of these 4-0 teams still on the map.
Oh, yeah. We've got a couple 4-0 teams, and there's 3 of them right now in the back of my head that aren't even in the top 10. And I know that we're going to have a graphic for that coming up about teams that are on the bubble and on the outside looking in that probably deserve a spot. But, if Cheney is able to pick up a victory against Canfield, who was the number 1 seed for the first 3 weeks of the season, they've got an argument now to be at least number 2.
Right.
Can they jump South Range? That's a big question.
Well, and that's one of the things people kind of fell out of favor with South Range too.
But I get they had 6 turnovers, but a win's a win.
Well, it's the NE8 again is to me one of the best conferences all around. And I don't care who you're talking about. We had people that were voting for Jefferson in the top 10 because they're playing in the NE8, which is fair. They were a 3-0 team going into that game, played Girard, the beneficiary, 2 spots up. It's interesting to see all of this kind of come together and people doubting after close games. We're seeing it in college football. Now we're seeing it on our own power rankings where West Branch and Ursuline, the only 2 teams that have a 1 on the right side of their column.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people, myself included, that feel that Ursuline got a little bit of, disrespect falling from grace from 4 to 10.
They fell a long ways. And, I still think that Ursuline's a top 5 team, in my opinion. I think Siggy brings up a good point here. I think JFK's strength of schedule is being overlooked. They're D7, and they just beat a D4 team in Perkins. Like, that's a very impressive win. I mean, Perkins, they were respectable. They were 3-0, D4, and they came from behind, and they beat that team. I just think JFK, it's going to be tough for them to jump the top 4 right now. Whoever loses between Canfield and Cheney, I think JFK is going to take that spot.
You think?
Yeah.
You think that 4 spots, whoever it is,
mm-hmm.
and whoever loses,
I think
you could be on the water slide.
I think whoever loses can have the Ursuline effect where they jump from number 2 or number 4 all the way down to number 8 or number 9.
And again, we've got some good games this week as well. Basically, you don't want to lose, and
You just can't lose.
I mean, it's incredible because we had people, and again, we do this, and we understand that it's all based on opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But we have people that get really upset that their team's undefeated and not in here. So with that said, Rich, who are some teams that you think should be in here that are not under the current power rankings?
I'm going to have to agree with my guy and Gary Niddle. I think him and I were on the same page this week. I put Mineral Ridge in the top 10, and he was fighting for him as well in our group chat. And I think that Mineral Ridge does deserve to be in the top 10, the way they put up numbers. They've scored 162 points and have given up 28. The only thing that lacks for Mineral Ridge is their strength of schedule right now. And I think that's the reason that teams don't want to put them in the top 10, because you got Pie Valley, who's not very good this year. We know Orange is kind of struggling. Newton Falls and McDonald, a lot of those have losing records.
Okay. I'm holding up 2. Why do you think I'm holding up 2? That's how many games teams that have played Mineral Ridge have won.
Yeah.
And that's a tough sell. Jamie Thompson was quick to point that out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like quick to the point, no fake, and cooking them seeds like a pound of bacon, right? That was, it was very quick. And I get it. Like, there's 4-0 teams that probably should get more recognition. Jackson, Milton.
That was my next one.
That's a big one, man. And you and I talked about that earlier.
But it's the same thing.
It
Jackson
is.
Milton, because Latonia's winless. Newton Falls struggling, although I thought they were going to be really good this year. I really did, with their running backs and their defense, but they've lost some heartbreaking games. LeBray struggling this year. Western Reserve, they barely got by 1 point, and Reserve's 1-3 this year with a win over Liberty. So, Lowville's their biggest test. If Jackson Milton can prove to everybody that they are good enough to beat the Rockets at home, they deserve a top 10 spot, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like,
I without a doubt.
Like, if they're going to beat Lowville, they deserve to be in there.
Southern has more points than Lowville and ranked higher in the same region. And again, Southern's one of those teams too. Mm-hmm. But the problem with Southern, I think, is people don't recognize them, right?
They're not
new team in YSN. They're not familiarized with the players, and they should be now, because Morris just won the Big Dog of the Valley by a landslide. A landslide. And I think they deserve some respect on their name. However, and here it is. Here it is. Boom. Valley has had some schedule issues until the win against United. And look what we said this. With whoever won that game they were going to be in, because they had the upper hand. That was the early, I think, championship for that particular conference in the EOAC. So, and not to put Southern out of it, but now you've got a real championship that you've got to take place. And those teams got to play each other too, by the way.
You know what? Southern is going to have plenty of opportunities to prove themselves this season. They're going to have plenty of opportunities to get into that top 10, potentially top 5, because they got Valley Christian in week number 7. And then they got United to finish off the season in week number 10. So, they're going to face 2 of the big dogs that are in that EOAC conference. And they got Columbiana coming up next week. I don't know if that'll be enough to get them in the top 10 coming up, even if they do improve to 5-0 with a win over Columbiana. And then you're taking on Wellsville, who's been pretty good this year, and then Latonia. So I think it's going to be week 7 where Southern's going to have a chance to creep in, unless there's some dramatic losses.
We're going to talk about the Latonia situation later on in the show. But the big thing, Rich, is you look at that week 10. You said that United plays Southern.
Yep.
East Palestine plays Valley. So Valley's going to have – I don't want to say that it's going to be an easy win, because the Bulldogs just won their first game in 2 years. But Valley's going to have the edge going into week 10, because, number one, they're going to know if they're in the playoffs, which they should be. D6, Kirtland's waiting. But from a conference perspective, they're going to know quickly kind of where they are as a possible conference champion. Because right now, you look at the top of the standings, and Valley has an eagle-eye view of the rest of the conference, because they're sitting there going, the Battle of the Eagles, we took it. And that was a very good, and I will say this 100 times out of 100, a very good United team. And they were big, like huge. Like, I know I'm a little guy, I'm a short guy, But when you walk on the field, my goodness, they were towering.
Yeah.
And they were like pros. It was like watching a college game. But Valley did not back down. It was a great game to watch, and congratulations to Coach Hake and the entire Eagle team and the entire school over at Valley Christian, because I know that was there's a lot of people that'll look at that and say, okay, that's a win. It's a week 4 win. Who cares?
Yeah.
That was a program win. That was a big time win for Andy and for the entire school. So congratulations to all of them. Amo chiming in says underrated game this week. EP versus Wellsville. He likes that game. We'll talk about it. I mean, I think Wellsville has
Wellsville's
athletes.
good, man. I mean, they shocked me with that win this week.
Columbiana?
I thought Columbiana was going to win. I really did. And Wellsville came out and they beat them pretty good.
How about Coach Spates still after win number 200?
I know. I don't think they're going to get it this week either against Southern.
You don't have to wait for my pick, but I'm probably leaning towards you. And that, I mean, Southern's good.
They're good.
Southern's very good.
They've always been good, though. You know, even before they were on the YSN banner, because we had so many teams in their conference and they match up so many times, we always talked about Southern and how good they were defensively. And, you know, a lot of people thought we had Southern as a YSN school, including some of our own, because of how many times we've talked about Southern, right? And, you know, they're very popular on our network when it comes to talking about their defense and a lot of their athletes that they have, and they're doing it again this year. They're off to a perfect start.
Rich Wright is killing it with the wing tee. Everywhere he goes, he makes a success out of it. All right, we talked about teams outside looking in. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Southern for a second. What do they have to do to get in? I mean, it's got to be a win versus Valley now, right?
It's got to be a win in weeks number 7 and weeks number 10.
Yeah,
because strength of schedule is going to be a problem for Southern coming up with Columbiana, who's winless. I think Wellsville, if they do beat East Palestine, that could be a quality win. Mm-hmm. And then Latonia, their situation right now, which we'll address later. So they might have to wait a couple weeks to get in the top 10 unless you've got a West Branch that would maybe fall or an Ursuline that would fall out again. But I doubt you would see West Branch or Ursuline losing again until later on in the weeks.
All right, let's turn the page. Who has the most to win this week? When you're looking at the whole slate of games, who can maybe make an impact and find themselves on the power rankings, or who can make an impact and really impact their future? We're talking playoffs, Rich.
I think first off, and we touched on it a little bit, but we're going to expand on this topic, Jackson Milton and Lowville. I think those two teams, if they could pick up a win in week number 5, that does a lot, not for just our power rankings, but for their playoff spot when it comes to their divisions. Because right now you got Jackson Milton, who's looking at their schedule saying, you know what, we're able to squeeze by Newton Falls by 2. That ball game came down to the last possession. We squeezed by Western Reserve by 1 point, 22-21. And looking ahead, they still have Mineral Ridge and Springfield on their schedule. So if they could take down Lowville right now, you play Sebring, and then you prep for Mineral Ridge. So I think if Jackson Milton can come up big at home against Lowville, they could really cement a good spot in their playoff rankings in that division.
What about that Springfield Mineral Ridge matchup? To me, that's the matchup that whoever wins that game really gets a lot of momentum going into the second half of the season. And probably, I don't want to say if Springfield wins, they cement their spot in the postseason. But, Rich, if they go on a 6-0 run here, I think you got to at least have the idea of, here we go again.
Put that comment up there.
Here we go. Sebring is a trap game, Richie. For who?
I don't know. I think he's referring to Jackson Milton.
Oh, boy. Amo.
That's a pretty bold take.
That is a hot take.
No, but I agree with you going back to that Springfield game, because if Springfield is able to pick up a big victory against an undefeated Mineral Ridge team, changes their season. Because right now, you know, they're down in the dumps. You know, they've lost a couple tough ones, including the one to Lowville where they were leading in that first half. So, you know, they're kind of desperate for a win right now, especially on the road. But Mineral Ridge, they need to keep this train rolling. And, you know, if you could go 5-0, but what hurts Mineral Ridge, in my opinion, and when you said it earlier when you pointed up too, if they do beat Springfield, yes, it helps because they're still undefeated, but
you still got an offer.
Yeah, it's an offer.
It's still, you're still teams with 2 wins.
Yeah,
you know,
which hurts
unless one of those teams wins it. But here's the other thing that's interesting to me. When you look at that particular game, you look at a Springfield team that is 0-4, back against the wall, D7, where we've seen some crazy things happen in D7, like Steeler Bengal like things happen in D7. When that comes to fruition, can Springfield still make a run here?
It'll be tough. It will be tough, I think, because, Springfield, just offensively, they just don't have much. And I think that's been the problem. I mean, I think Rourke's great, and they've got one other weapon, but it's not like they have been in the past with their offensive line. And Shondell Gardner's great on the outside. But, outside of those two, I think they've struggled, on both sides. So, I never want to count a team out like Springfield because they've been so good historically and they find ways to win. But, I'm going to pull up their schedule, and looking at their schedule coming up, they've got some winnable games. Like after Mineral Ridge, there's a lot of bright spots in this schedule. I mean, Waterloo's a winnable game. Western Reserve, Jackson, Milton will be tough, and then Sebring. So this is a big opportunity for Springfield to kind of turn that page. If they could go 1-4 and finish out and somehow find their way into the playoffs with a winning record, could be a dangerous 15-16 seed.
So when you look at Lakeview, a team that is capturing our hearts here at YASN because they took a beating for so long, and they are red fire right now. Lakeview, huge opportunity this week versus Girard. Maybe a trap game for Girard with South Range waiting in the wings at 6. You feel the same way?
I do. I think Siggy makes a good point here. And, shout out to him, by the way. He's leading our YSN picks right now. So if there's anybody that knows the Valley in football, it's him. He's got 110 wins and 24 losses through 4 weeks of picks. So
he cheated.
I
don't know how,
impressive.
but he cheated.
No, but, I do agree with him. I think Lakeview beating Niles, and, I'll talk about this a little bit later on in one of the coaches of the week. I think Coach Bellino is going to have to win that. 21-13 win in the NE8 over McKinley, and then you move forward and you take on Girard at home. You have so much confidence after a big win against Liberty, a big win against Niles. They beat LaBrie to open up the season, barely lost to Garfield by 10 points, which was a lot closer than it looks. So I think this is a team that has a lot of momentum, and especially after last year and a disappointing season, this is kind of the Bulldogs' chance to show everybody, hey, we're still here, especially like they were in the past, if they could pull off the upset and beat Girard at home.
Amos says, if they beat Ridge and Jackson Milton, would that be enough for the playoffs?
If they beat Ridge and Jackson Milton, it depends what Jackson Milton does the rest of the way, in my opinion.
Yep. But that's two teams, again, we talked about that, that have wins, but they don't have those quality wins that you're looking for and can make all the difference in your region. Go to Joe Idle.
See, when I'm looking at Joe Idle right now, Division 7 in the bottom tier is really struggling. You've got 14 through 16 who have 1-3, 2-2, 2-2. So, there's plenty of opportunity for Springfield to come in, and if they could win 4 or 5 games to end the season, they slide right in there. And
they might not be a 14 seed.
Yeah, they might not even be 16. They could be tied for 14th or even 13th at some point.
It's going to be fun. Here's two teams that I want to talk about real quick that actually played each other to start the season: Salem, Crestview. Salem was on the power rankings, lost to Tri-C. Now they're out because if you remember right, and you and I talked about this as well off camera, Tri-C is a team that South Range beat. Division 5 South Range beats Tri-C, and Salem, Division 4 team, can't get it done. No. So there's you want to look at a quality opponent. Tri-C is it, but unfortunately for Salem, they come up short.
Yeah, that loss hurts them big time, in my opinion, because of South Range. Like you said, that's a Division 5 team that comes in and is able to beat, Tri-C, and then Salem drops at home to them. So I think that hurts a lot when it comes to their strength of schedule. And I think it also hurts that they barely were able to scrape by Crestview in week number 1. And they've had some troubles offensively. Kind of surprising. We kind of talked about this with Coach Johnson and everybody and their staff. Like, we were expecting another offensive juggernaut performance from the Quakers this year, and it just hasn't happened, and it hasn't clicked yet. I think it will at some point. And once the Quakers are able to get going, I think they could find themselves back into this top 10.
Amos says they start conference play with Alliance, who they struggle with as well. And I think that's no secret. We've seen that. And that was that crazy game last year. I believe that Salem had it all won and Alliance just walked down. I think maybe Blaze X-Line dropped the pass in the end zone to win it.
And Alliance, they already whooped on Niles earlier. And that was kind of the big question mark coming into the season. I know when we were doing our weekly picks, everybody picked Niles. Nobody was familiar with Alliance, and they came in and they beat them up.
That was a company pick.
Yeah.
Let's go. I want to talk Crestview, but I want to make sure I know their schedule. Who do they have?
Crestview coming up. So they're 1-3, and they're going to take on Liberty, Brookfield, and LeBray.
Okay, so Crestview wins 63-0 last week.
Yeah.
Liberty, Brookfield, LeBray. Liberty, that's a winnable game. Brookfield's going to be a tough game for the Rebels. And you said LeBray, that's a winnable game. Crestview, I think, has the most to win this week. They had the most to win last week, and they did not mess around when it came to Campbell. They came in, they absolutely laid it to the Red Devils and walked out triumphant as all can be. But there's people making a push for Crestview. Nobody wants Crestview on that power rankings more than I do, because that means that they're turning things around again. You know what I mean? But I think there's an expectation with Crestview that they still have this powerful offense from Anthony Cusick for the last 3 years, and it's just not clicking right there. The rushing is there, the running is there, but the Rebels haven't clicked yet. And maybe, just maybe, they clicked in week 4, and now the Rebels are back to what they're used to doing in business as usual. But Crestview's a team that I think they've got a lot to win this week, Rich, when they play Liberty. But Liberty also a team that has been struggling, looking to get back on track, and they can use this as kind of a springboard.
Yeah.
Because when you got Brookfield waiting in week 6,
it's tough.
It's hard not to look that direction.
I think for Crestview too, if you look at their losses, they're quality losses, right? Southern losing 12-7, United losing heartbreaker at the end.
4 seconds, yeah.
With 4 seconds left, 42-39. Salem 17-7. I mean, all 3 of their losses are within a possession and a field goal, right? So, I mean, it's been a tough go for Crestview. They're looking back at the early slate of their schedule saying, we could be sitting 4-0 right now if we execute down the stretch. So I think the Rebels kind of took a lot of that frustration and anger out on Campbell this past week, beating them 63-0. And, Liberty's been struggling. I think they're going to take care of Liberty. And then Brookfield's going to be their staple game. Are we really back to where we want to be if they could beat Brookfield? And that kind of brings me to my next point with Brookfield. That's a team that probably feels slighted a little bit because they have gotten zero recognition in the last 3 weeks.
They were on the start.
They
got booted quick.
They got booted quick, and I think people lost faith quickly in the Warriors after that loss to Ursuline. And then Springfield, they beat Western Reserve. They really put it to Western Reserve, really put it to Liberty. They're going to take on Campbell. They're probably going to be 4-1 heading into Crestview. So
that's a team that I'd love to see on the top 10.
And I think it's going to be so tough for Brookfield to convince everybody, hey, we're back to where we were before the season, preseason hype, because like you said, everybody fell off that boat right away.
Does Brookfield play Louisville?
No.
Okay, I was going to say that would be a matchup.
They play Garfield in week number 9.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah.
Hold on to your hats for that one. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we talked about who has the most to win, Rich. Who has the most to lose this week? We're also going to talk about coaches of the week for this week and a little bit more coming up on the Ysn Power Hour right after these great sponsors.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers. From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle
and lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history. No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance. Check us out online at MyersFamilyINS.com or find us on Facebook.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa.
And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing.
Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships.
We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team.
Your goals, our game plan.
Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
And welcome back to the Ysn Power Hour. A little breaking news for you, Rich. You were going to go to Poland and Niles, and it got
canceled. So Anthony, Romo, and myself are going to transition over. We're still going to stay on Poland's campus, Boardman at Poland. That'll be volleyball tonight, so we'll stay with Poland.
I like it. Switch one for another. So if you were a soccer fan, the game got canceled. It wasn't our coverage. The game got canceled. So, hey, make one up, right? You guys will have a fun time in volleyball tonight.
Hell yeah.
Radar says, oh, boy.
Oh.
All right, brace yourselves. Hi, guys. I got to tell you guys, South Range committed 6 turnovers against them when they played Struthers last Friday night and still won. My question is to you guys, how big is the South Range Girard game? Looks for September 23rd, which is 11 days away. Thanks.
So it's next week.
Yeah, it's it's next week, week 6, which I believe Siggy already said.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big game, but
huge.
What do you think a coach is going to say? If you're talking to Coach Pearson, you're talking to Coach Yeagley, they got to take care of business, especially Coach Yeagley, because that South Range game, I can't lie to you. I'm a little bit concerned. I know what South Range, their potential is, but to not go out and handle business, Coach Yeagley said it was a tough week of practice, and they're not just going to roll over for you. That was the first time I think I've ever seen a South Range team. And I'm going to give credit to Struthers. I don't want this to feel like it's all South Range's fault. A South Range team kind of let somebody play with them that probably shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Struthers, they're without their starting quarterback. They had quarterback by committee with Grzib and Howard, which Howard, by the way, cannon. That kid is going to be really good. He's got an absolute just rocket on his shoulder. And Grzib he can play anywhere and do anything. Same as Chazzy Cognac, who's a great receiver who probably should be up for big dogs this week. We'll see if it happens, if it materializes. But I'm a little bit worried for South Range. I'm concerned because I know where they can be. And if they're going to look past teams, they could be one of those teams in the second round of the playoffs that looks past a team. And, there's a lot to prove in that second round of the play. There's a lot to prove every week in the playoffs, but the second round especially, the South Range is not number 1, are they? They're number 2.
They are number 2 to Garraway from Sugar Creek,
who gave them a game last year. And if you remember right, that was the team that Shane Lindstrom had to catch or throw the pass into the end zone, which they tried against Struthers, and it got picked.
Oof.
6 turnovers, Rich.
That's a lot. I'm surprised they came out with a win in that ball game with 6 turnovers. That's almost like every drive of the game.
I can't tell you. I mean, can you think of another team that you think would win with 6 turnovers?
No. Defense had been stellar.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was, I forget, it was 57 rushing yards, something like that. I mean, Bailey Ryan holds it down on the defensive line, and the linebackers were playing great. J.D. Krause, I think, had 6.5 tackles. 3.5 of them were for loss. It's going to be interesting. Did Struthers show you if they can somehow strike first against South Range, you can compete with them? It's an interesting question. I didn't think about it like that. I don't think that's the case as much as it was like South Range couldn't get out of their own way. I know Billy didn't have his best game, certainly, but he still was moving the ball. He still was moving the football. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people that want to penalize South Range this week. I'm not going to lie to you. There's somebody that didn't even put them in their top 10. And I was like, all right.
That's a little much.
All right.
But listen, I mean, you're not going to have a perfect week every week. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to expect, especially in the NE8, just blow the doors off of everybody. Poland, you know what? The Bulldogs, if they come in and they're focused, they're coming off a win against Hubbard. Who says they can't hang with South Range?
I think I owe Poland a huge apology, by the way, because I gave them zero chance to win that game.
Yeah.
And they stuffed it up my tailpipe, man.
Yeah,
like, good on them. Good on them. Like, that's high school football in the Valley.
Yeah.
That's what we want. So congratulations to pulling on a big win over Hubbard. Something that, I mean, it's been a minute. You know what I mean? It's been, because Hubbard was all the rage in the last few years. And Poland, even with some of the great football teams that they had struggled against Hubbard. So,
and it's kind of the same in the last 2 years. Poland hasn't beaten South Range since 2019. So, if the Bulldogs want revenge because they lost in a one-possession game last year, one-possession game 2 years ago.
Yep.
So, I mean, Poland, they're ready to come out and they're ready to beat the Raiders. And, unfortunately, they got to travel on the road, and it's so hard to win at South Range because they just find ways to win like that. 6 turnovers, you still win the ball game. Like, that's insane. But, I think if South Range isn't locked in and they're not as focused as they were last week, I think this could be the same type of game.
I agree. And it leads us right into the most to lose this week. At the top of my list is South Range.
Yeah.
If South Range is not focused, if they do not come to play, if they do not come prepared, Poland will take advantage and they will walk away with a win at Raider Stadium.
I agree with you. And, I think another team that might have a lot to lose this week is Hubbard, because Hubbard's facing a Struthers team that's kind of got that moral victory after hanging with South Range, who's the big dog in the NE8. And, Struthers has played well against some very good opponents this year. They just come up a little bit short. I know Streetsboro, gut-wrenching loss, missing that 2-point conversion and losing by 1. I think the Wildcats feel right now that Geneva's probably their only loss that they could look back and say, you know what, they handed it to us.
The other team that's on my radar for most to lose this week, this is going to sound weird, Richie, because we're going to talk about a team that hasn't won a game since 2020 until last Friday night. It's East Palestine Bulldogs. So you won the game that was winnable, right? You can't get cocky.
Yeah.
You can't get arrogant. You can't look past teams to try to get to teams. You've got Wellsville coming up. You have to be able to go and compete against Wellsville. Do you have to win the game? No. Like, to me, you got to take those baby steps. And East Palestine puts 34 on the board. They blank the Latonia Bears. If East Palestine falls back into old habits, then I think they have the most to lose this week because they're finally making strides.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's, hashtag flip the switch. Everybody's excited. The town's, I thought the town was going to burn down on Friday night. But it's one of those things, Rich, is you got to keep taking steps forward and not back.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, East Palestine is one of those teams that I think has the most to lose this week.
I'll put a bow on this for the most to lose, Girard.
Oof.
I think Girard's a big one. They're number 1 right now, according to Joe Idle in Division 4. Now they're dropping down 1. They're playing a D5 Lakeview team that's 3-1, riding the high horse coming in, and they're on the road at Lakeview. So if they're not focused here and they're looking ahead to South Range, I think that Girard's another team that has the most to lose here in week number 5.
Craig and Eric pointing out Girard was very impressive, only holding Jefferson to 6 points, which I think leads us to a little call out that you want to have here on the show.
Sam, if you're listening, you let me down. Told me to pick Lakeside. I picked Lakeside.
Lost.
Told me to pick Jefferson, best offense in 85 years for the Falcons, and they put up 6 points, and they got beat.
Sammy just cooked you up some portobellos or whatever it was.
He said, this is what you get for not coming with us in Chicago to portobellos.
This is another one, and this is kind of a little – it cuts a little deeper. Most to lose this week. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard in the rumor mill, I guess is what you call it, there's a team out there that doesn't have a win this year, that has been struggling for a little bit now, that there's a meeting tonight about the possibility of doing away with their program. This is tough to swallow. It's a proud tradition program. We're not going to say the name. You could probably figure it out if you do enough digging. I'm baffled. I'm disappointed. I know this isn't necessarily what the coaching staff and the community wants. I don't know what measures they're going to take, but if you cancel a program a month in simply because of losses, I don't think that's the right move. I don't think at all. If it's because of health and safety concerns, if you don't have enough players to play, that's one thing. But if it's just because of losses, if it's just because you don't like the product that's being put on the field, let me just tell you that it's more important that they're out on the field than it is for them to pack it in and just go do something else. Sometimes, I mean, I'm going to get on my high horse. You ready? Because I'm short. Sometimes in life, you don't get to win very often, but it's those moments that you're able to come through, the moments like East Palestine had last week, the moments like Jefferson has suffered through, like Lakeview has suffered through, like all programs go through. It's the ebbs and flows. And unfortunately, you're not always going to be successful. And at the end of the day, sports is a huge, and I mean huge, device that allows us as human beings, men, women, children, to learn a little bit about ourselves, to take our losses and build from them and try to work towards wins. And in my humble opinion, and I don't know enough about the situation, I'm certainly not there, so I don't want to poo-poo and point fingers and tell people shame, 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 but it's important to finish. No matter what, it's important to finish the season. It's important for your community. It's important for your parents. It's important for these kids. You're teaching them not to quit, not to, when the going gets tough, you know what? Pack it up and we're going to another zip code. With so many open enrollment options nowadays, it would be a sheer disappointment to see this happen to a program that has won championships in the last 2 decades, even shorter than that. I heard that last night and I'm heartbroken.
Yeah. Well, you know, what really hurts is the community at the end of the day, because you talk about it and the open enrollment, any of those kids can pack up and they could go to any other community and they could find a place to live, or, you know, it could be open enrollment. They could go play football there. So, you know, not only does it hurt your football program and your coaching staff, but it hurts your community and it hurts your school district at the end of the day.
All right, let's go to thanks for letting me jump up on that pedestal. Coach of the week, Rich, who's your nomination for Coach of the week?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
Dominic Prologo, JFK, huge win over Perkins. That is equivalent to beating a Girard, a West Branch, a Poland. You know, you could go down the list. That is a big time win for that program. And I think a lot of people overlook that for some reason, because like you said, with Southern and how a lot of people around this area are unfamiliar with Southern right now, it's the same for that team. Nobody knows who Perkins is. They're from Sandusky, never in our media coverage, whatever. But that was a quality win for that program. I think for Lakeview, Sam Bellino, he's got this place going in the right direction. Big win over Niles. And then, you know, I'm going to shout out Tom Pavlansky for Poland. That's a monumental win for that program in 2022, because, you know, Hubbard came in undefeated. I get they barely won a couple of games on the last possessions, but beating a team that's undefeated and that you've had some trouble with the past couple of years is big for those kids. And now they got South Range. If you were to fall to 1-3 going into South Range week, I think it's very tough for the Bulldogs to stay afloat this season. But that's a big win for that program.
So we're doing kind of like 3 stars in hockey kind of deal.
Okay,
so I'll roll with that. I'll go with the first star is going to be Michael Dempster of East Palestine. Gets his first win as a head coach that I know of, especially here in Palestine. I know that the community has really backed him, and they're all behind the flip the switch and kind of the changing of the guard, if you will. So congratulations to him on his first win, hopefully of many to come. The second one, I'm going to go with TJ Parker, because that is a signature win for the Austintown Fitch Falcons. I mean, when you're sitting there and you're playing a team that is so kind of Youngstown, right? People associated with Youngstown with the state championships and the long playoff runs in seemingly every sport. To walk into their dojo and to become the sensei as because people they won't look at this. Fitch led by 35. And you can take that and cut that up however you want it. But Fitch dominated that game. Did Ursuline come back? They absolutely did. But I think that Fitch took the foot off the pedal and said, hey, we got this one in the bag. And it almost bit him in the ass. I think from that standpoint, both teams have to learn something from that game. But TJ Parker with a big dub gets him the second star of the coach of the week. And the first one goes to gold-blooded. Andy Hake, man. How do you not go with Coach Hake when I'm on the field with him prior to the game and he's just staring a hole into the United Eagles and he goes, you see how big they are? Look out there. It's a college offensive line. And I was like, okay, are you telling me you're not going to win this game? He's like, no, we're going to win it. We're going to win it. We're going to run away from all of them. So, I mean, they had over 200 rushing yards. Yeah. So, Valley came to play and two great staffs. When you look at DJ Ogilvy and Andy Hake, love their staffs. I mean, for me, that's a coin flip talking about who I like more. I mean, DJ Ogilvy's been such a great, person and great to us at YSN, and Andy's the same. So it was tough for me to kind of pick, but it's always fun watching Andy because it's like, I don't. It's like watching theater. I mean, at one point he was yelling at referees, telling them that their sins cannot be forgiven. I was dying. So I'll take Dempster, I'll take Parker, and I'll take Hake as my coaches of the week.
That's someone we got to mic up during the game.
I'm trying so hard. I talked to Dolph. I need him to give me the okay because Saturday we have our little thing for cross country.
Oh yeah,
and then we could still go make that Valley Christian Lisbon game if we mic up Andy. You and I've done that before.
Yeah, that
would be fun to do.
I would.
I'll see. No, I might call in a favor for Dolph. It's going to cost me probably some coffee, but I'll take care of it. Frank says, "Yeah, boy, JFK Dom Pro logo," and then Siggy, who was there with me. The atmosphere down on the field was great. It was awesome. I will let you in on this before we get to our Spark. So I'm filming before the game just to have so we can put promos and stuff together. And he comes through, and I would play it, but I don't want to. He didn't say anything bad. He goes, "They're not doing this in North Korea, DJ. They are not doing this in North Korea, America." Just kept on walking. It was just. That's Andy Hake. That's the relationship that we have. I love him. I think he's brilliant, from that standpoint. A lot of people, he's polarizing. Let's put it that way. He's like John Cena. You either love him or you don't. Let's get to our Spark, brought to you by Joe Dickey Electric. Also want to let people know the power rankings. I failed to mention that power rankings are brought to you by Joe Dickey Electric. Thank you to Eric Carlson and his whole team. If you need anything commercial, residential, anything electrical, you know where to go. Go to Joe Dickey Electric. And here's the Spark. What's the Spark, Rich? I jumped on my pedestal. You got one?
Yeah, I guess my Spark would be putting together those power rankings because that's what makes Friday nights excitable. Because when you have, for example, I have the opportunity to call Canfield Cheney 2-4, 2 teams undefeated. Without our power rankings, yeah, they're undefeated, but there's so much to play for in this matchup now, especially after our power rankings that were, brought together by all of the YSN crew on Sunday night. So, I just love doing those. I think that makes it very competitive, and it's all for fun at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah, some people might have some crazy opinions like keeping South Range out of the top 10, but
Anthony Hartwig,
at the end of the day, I think that's what makes our jobs fun on Friday night, because we could compete not only with one another, but the athletes as well get to compete.
I wish everybody could see our group chat and understand how many homers we have in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so funny to hear and see the dialogue and defending kind of like your baby.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like two parents going at each other. Almost.
Nobody's talking trash on South Range because they know the boss is coming at them. But like Ridge is defended in there, Lakeview, like all these schools are defended.
West Branch
in
has been in
West Branch
in there a lot because of very good loss against Canfield. They've dominated everybody else. So yeah, it's fun.
Show me another media outlet that has more collective knowledge of local football more than YSN. Well, I'll wait too, I guess. We won't wait because we got to wrap it up. That's an hour of power for you on this Monday. We hope you enjoyed it. Tuesday, we will have more interviews with more local student athletes and coaches. Wednesday, we'll invite this guy back, and then we'll have more to talk about, of course, on the Power Hour. Do not forget all these games technically minus a pull-in game plus a pull-in volleyball game are available tonight on YSN. For Richie, I'm DJ. That's going to do it for us today. Peace be with you, and we'll see you on the other side. YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of Your Sport.